In a massive step toward making U.S. postal delivery vehicles electric, the U.S. Postal Service has turned to the EV maker Oshkosh with a 10-year contract. And the EV maker's rival Workhorse is feeling the missed opportunity. Its shares slumped 47%. That's the biggest drop since 2011. Here to discuss is Bloomberg's senior reporter, Kyle Stock. Hey, Kyle, always great to have you on the show. According to Bloomberg Intelligence, this contract could be worth more than $5.7 billion in revenue. Where are we with the deal? Is this deal final for Oshkosh?
It's final in a sense. I mean, they're giving them the money to get started. So there's $482 million. Basically, that's just going to go to designing this thing and building the factory or tooling the factory. So it's just kind of early stages. It'll ramp up from here, but at the moment, it's called an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. So it's flexible.
Okay, so you joined us recently over the last few weeks when we learned that President Biden wants to electrify the fleet of hundreds of thousands of federal vehicles. Included in that hundreds of thousands are indeed hundreds of thousands of the United States Postal Service vehicles. So are these ones that are made by Oshkosh, are they going to be electric?
They're not initially. That's what's weird about this contract. It calls for efficient vehicles, starting probably with gas, and then they're going to ideally design something that can be retrofitted with an electric motor and drivetrain, years down the line.
So this
it's
is
a little bit of a half step, if you will.
This is really surprising for me, given that these vehicles haven't, I don't want to call them cars, they're something. Trucks, vans, cars, they're pretty cool looking. I mean, they were trending on Twitter last night for a reason. I think they're cool looking. They're polarizing, I think we could say. At least the design at this point is. It's puzzling to me, though, that they wouldn't just jump out of the gate with electric vehicles, because as you explained to us just a few weeks ago, postal trucks are like the perfect thing for electric vehicles because they can do an entire route on one charge and then go back to where they park overnight and get charged.
Yeah, and they're very set routes. They know how far they need to go. There's a lot of braking. I think what happened here is, there's more of a challenge to it than just finding the right battery and the right rig. There's a huge infrastructure component in getting these things charged. And I think, the Postal Service probably looked at this and saw a number of big hurdles beyond the vehicle. Also, they really need these things, Tim. They need the first of these to come in in 2023. The contract's been out since 2015. And the postal fleet, these trucks we see all the time, are the oldest and some of the most inefficient vehicles in the federal fleet. So they're getting about 10 miles a gallon. They're always in the shop. They're like 30 years old. So I think they wanted, they wanted to start moving the ball a little more quickly.
Hey, Kyle, what happened to Workhorse yesterday? What happened to Oshkosh? I mean, these are obviously different companies, and Workhorse really didn't do well yesterday because of this news, so falling 47%, as I mentioned.
Yeah, they really got whacked. And not really surprisingly, the company's been around for some time, but it's still working on its first product. It's had a couple pivots. I think investors were really holding out hope. It was one of the only pure play EV makers in the group of finalists. So I think investors were really thinking the government would throw them the work or some of the work, especially, a company at this stage. They could essentially build the company around this product. And, in some ways that would have been good for Uncle Sam. But yeah, they're kind of back to the drawing board. They want to bring out sort of a mass market pickup. Yeah. But there's a ton of companies doing that right now, including Ford and GM, which, are decent at making pickups. So
they have experience.
It's kind of a little bit of an existential crisis, or at least a revaluing there of their prospects.
All right, we'll give you understatement of the day for saying that Ford and GM are decent at making pickups. Bloomberg senior reporter Kyle Stock. Kyle, thanks as always for your time. Great to have you on the show this afternoon.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.